So it has been a very interesting past week for Manchester City fans. There has been so much transfer news. There has been so much emotional energy around the club at the moment, obviously, with the exit of Kevin De Bruyne. And there has been so much that has happened in the past week. And I'm going to start doing a weekly summary of all of the transfer news coming out of Manchester City. And of course, this is, again, another video talking about all of the transfer news surrounding Manchester City at the moment, and there is so much that's happened over this past week, so let's just get straight into it. And we're of course going to be starting with the biggest transfer news story of this week, and it is to do with Florian Verz, and unfortunately not even Manchester City, it's to do with Liverpool. After being in an incredible position, it being reported at the beginning of the week that Manchester City have always been the English club more close to signing Florian Verz this summer. It is now up to the player and his family to decide on the next move, but everything is ready on the Manchester City side. But for it only taking a couple of days before Manchester City left negotiations for Florian Verz, it was reported by Fabrizio Romano on May 19th that talks were never advanced or at the final stages, just initial approaches, but City believed the full package is too expensive. Morgan Gibbs-White remains on Manchester City's shortlist. With it coming out that Florian Verz has chosen Bayern Munich as his next club and the player's wish has been confirmed to Manchester City officials, Hugo Viana and his team are now working on Barcelona's Dani Olmo as their plan B, a player always very appreciated by Pep Guardiola. However, yesterday a bombshell was dropped as both Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein reported on Florian Verz, however, not quite to the club that we wanted. With Fabrizio Romano reporting that Florian Verz has informed Bayer Leverkusen of his desire to join Liverpool. The contract agreement is done, sealed, as Verz only wants Liverpool move. Club-to-club talks already underway as revealed earlier. Liverpool are confident to get the deal done soon. And we've been absolutely mugged off here, as this report right here shows that while Florian Verz has previously informed Manchester City that he had chosen Bayern Munich, the midfielder and his entourage have now confirmed to the Bundesliga champions that he will be joining Liverpool this summer. And I am absolutely fuming. We've had months and months and months of transfer news surrounding Florian Verz to Manchester City. All of the news coming out that Manchester City have made contacts with Bayer Leverkusen early, that Pep Guardiola has held conversations with Florian Verz. All of this transfer news that was pointing in the direction of Manchester City securing Florian Verz as the De Bruyne replacement, for him only to go to the Premier League champions instead of us. That is a really, really big problem. One of the best young attacking midfield talents in world football has gone to Liverpool or is about to go to Liverpool, and we have missed out on him. And we are losing our main creator in Kevin De Bruyne. So this is a really, really bad situation for Manchester City. It's not catastrophic. It doesn't mean we will not compete with Liverpool next season, but it is a massive, massive advantage in the transfer market to Liverpool. But don't worry, right? You know, earlier in the week it came out that Manchester City were targeting Dani Olmo, as it came out here that Dani Olmo is being considered as an alternative option to Florian Verz by Manchester City, and regular contacts have already taken place with the players' entourage. Manchester City will continue to work primarily on Verz and will only return to Olmo case in case of failure. So no problem, right? We've pulled out of the Florian Verz race. We're now looking at Dani Olmo. Well, not quite exactly, as his agent has come out and said that we're not talking to any other club. Dani is very happy in Barcelona at the moment, winning titles and part of a great team. The rumours are not true, but of course, you never know what the future will bring. So basically, in essence, denying the fact that Dani Olmo has got any sort of hard links of leaving Barcelona at the moment. And of course, it doesn't make sense why he would leave Barcelona. He's only just joined them. Obviously, they've just won the La Liga, and they are in an absolutely incredible place at the moment. So I have no idea why anyone would actually think that we were going to sign Dani Olmo, and I don't think he's the right signing for us anyway. However, there is a player that we very much have been linked to over the last couple of weeks, and that is Morgan Gibbs-White. And there has been a little bit of further news that has crept out about him, and that is that the Nottingham Forest squad expect Morgan Gibbs-White to leave this summer, with it also coming out from the same source that Nottingham Forest will expect about 70 million for Morgan Gibbs-White, with Wolves due about a 10% of any profit. And for me, if we are willing to pay 70 million for Morgan Gibbs-White, I do have some questions over why we pull out of the Florian Verz deal, accordingly to sources, because of a transfer fee. Now, I don't think it's a transfer fee. I think we've been rejected. However, the way that obviously the news has been coming out, that for me doesn't make any sense. But moving on to a much more exciting transfer story, and that is Djani Rinders to Manchester City. And this is starting to gain some serious momentum over the last week or so. So let me just fill you in on all of the details currently coming out surrounding the Djani Rinders to Manchester City transfer news. And we started the week in a really good place, as it came out, according to Fabrizio Romano, that Manchester City will submit a formal opening bid for AC Milan to Djani Rinders in the upcoming weeks. Rinders wants to focus on final games of the season with Milan, and Man City respect that. Then the bid will follow next, as he is the main target at number 8. With Fabrizio Romano then further reporting that Manchester City will present an official bid to AC Milan of more than 50 million euros for Djani Rinders in the next days. The 26-year-old is considered the perfect player by Hugo Viana and Pep Guardiola for the number 8 role in Manchester City's squad, and that Manchester City plan to send a first written offer to AC Milan for Djani Rinders this week, and have already inquired about the financial requirements through the player's agents. Even 65 million euros is demanded, and an agreement could be found around the 50 million euro plus bonuses mark. Djani Rinders considers playing under Pep Guardiola as a dream and has let his representatives know he gives priority to Manchester City despite competition from Real Madrid. Hugo Viana already has the first agreements on personal terms, and it has also come out from, according to Times Sport, that Djani Rinders is available for about £55 million this summer. However, on May 22nd, it began to gain even more traction as news came out that negotiations between Manchester City and AC Milan are now heating up for Djani Rinders, who is attracted by the possibility of playing under Pep Guardiola. Emissaries from Manchester City are expected in Italy in the next few days. And then yesterday it came out from the same source, I'm not sure how reliable, that there is a difference now in 10 million euros that has emerged in discussions between Manchester City and AC Milan, between 65 million euros and 75 million euros over their respective valuations of Djani Rinders. Manchester City's opening formal offer is expected on by Monday. And for me, I'm absolutely excited by the prospect of this transfer. I think we need to get this one done. He has just been awarded the midfielder of the season in the Serie A. He has very similar attributes to İlkay Gündoğan. He is a world-class footballer in that position, and he's ready to go. And we need to bring in a player like that to the Manchester City squad right now in that number 8 role. Now, I know obviously we've just signed Nico Gonzalez, but adding Djani Rinders to that midfield, for me personally, I would think is so much more important than a Morgan Gibbs-White. I actually think that if we sign Djani Rinders, we don't need Morgan Gibbs-White, because, you know, we've got Reijnders, we've got Rodri, we've got Nico Gonzalez, we've even got someone like Nico O'Reilly who can play deeper in the midfield as well. You know, he can continue to develop. So I'm not sure we need Morgan Gibbs-White in the midfield if we do sign Djani Rinders, but for me, absolutely my number 1 target in that position has to be Djani Rinders. But moving on from an exciting signing that we could make to a player that we unfortunately are losing this summer is Kevin De Bruyne, and there has been actually some positive news that has come out surrounding Kevin De Bruyne's exit in the last week, and that is that Kevin De Bruyne will not be moving to another English club in the Premier League. And as you can see here, Kevin De Bruyne has ruled out joining another Premier League club following his Manchester City exit, and will sign for a foreign club next season. And for me, I think the reason why Kevin De Bruyne has made this decision, and specifically the news coming out the day after the send-off, was because I think he realized how much Manchester City fans truly do adore him. I mean, the amount of fans that stayed back, you know, singing all game long his name throughout the game against Bournemouth, the banners in the stadium, the tributes, everything that we did for him, I feel like it really did get across to him just how much we care about him. And I think he realized that if he moved to another English club, it wouldn't taint his legacy at all at the club, but it'd be tough to take for a Manchester City fan. But in terms of where Kevin De Bruyne will end up this summer, there have been 2 clubs that have been repeatedly mentioned by Fabrizio Romano and by other sources, and one of them is Chicago Fire, as it has come out that Chicago Fire have offered Kevin De Bruyne a competitive package and a chance to be their flagship talent. Owner Joe Mansueto has personally pitched to the Belgium and is keen to offer the move as a bridge to mentoring for a post-playing career in business. Chicago is also seen as attractive in terms of lifestyle. However, the club that I do think is more likely to sign Kevin De Bruyne, and the club I would actually like to see him go to, is Napoli, as it has come out that Napoli are the strongest option in Europe for Kevin De Bruyne, who still considers himself capable of performing at the highest level. Privately, there is disappointment that Manchester City never offered him a contract extension. But do not worry, Kevin De Bruyne, you are not the only one frustrated by this. Manchester City fans, there are a lot of us, including myself, that are very frustrated by the fact that we have not offered you a contract. And don't even get me started over the fact that we've now not secured Florian Verz. Florian Verz is going to our main competitive rival in terms of for the league in Liverpool, and we are losing Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, it's just a nightmare situation. And unfortunately, another player who is likely to leave the club this summer is James Mcatee, who has made a decent breakthrough into the Manchester City first team this summer, but has been kind of neglected in certain games, especially heading towards the end of the season, and I can understand if he is a little bit frustrated. But coming out that James Mcatee has received several inquiries from Bundesliga clubs, with Bayer Leverkusen also still keen. Although their next steps will depend on a new manager, a Manchester City exit remains possible, and Premier League clubs are also monitoring him. And then a couple days later, it came out that Wolves have now added James Mcatee to their shortlist of summer transfer targets. Molyneux officials believe the 22-year-old is good enough to start for the club and has huge potential. And unfortunately, with the amount of names that are currently just surrounding James Mcatee, it does feel a little bit inevitable that he will leave the club this summer. If we can get a good enough transfer fee, around probably, I think, the 40-50 million mark, I think the club will take it. I think that most likely the destination probably will be Bayer Leverkusen or will be in the Bundesliga. We'll have to see how the news develops, obviously, going forward, but it does look like James Mcatee is, unfortunately, one to watch in the summer in terms of leaving Manchester City for decent money. Another name, unfortunately, that could be leaving the club this summer as well is Ederson, as it has come out, according to The Athletic, that there is a strong chance that Ederson will leave Manchester City this summer. And while obviously this is not surprising to me whatsoever with all of the transfer news surrounding Ederson last summer moving to the Saudi league, I am a little disappointed because Ederson is obviously such a fantastic goalkeeper. I do think he's underrated in terms of what he has not only just achieved at Manchester City, but the player that he has been. I think he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the world consistently over the last 4 or 5 seasons. And unfortunately, it does look like he is going to leave in the summer, which means we need to replace him. I've seen there's not been anything reported this week. There has been a lot of reports previously about Diogo Costa. I'm not 100% convinced on him, if I'm being completely honest, but it does look increasingly likely that Ederson will leave the club this summer. But moving on to some more positive news in terms of players that we could be signing, or more players in this case that Liverpool could take from us that we are targeting, as it has come out now that we are targeting Milos Kirquez. It has come out that Manchester City have made inquiries for Bournemouth left-back Milos Kerkez and are now viewed as genuine rivals to Liverpool for the player's signature. With it also coming out that Hugo Viana is a big fan of Kerkez, who has set a price of £45 million by Bournemouth this summer. And for me personally, I really do struggle to see us actually getting this one across the line. I mean, I'd be surprised if we do get him. I'm not saying that we can't get him, but just the fact that Liverpool have been linked to him for much longer, it makes more sense for them to buy a left-back, obviously with Andy Robertson aging and also with us having Josko Gvardiol in that position. So I think it's much more likely that Liverpool go and sign him, and it could be another player that we lose out to Liverpool on that we are targeting. But he is a player that we have been linked to over the last week and is one to watch, but I wouldn't watch it with your heart in your mouth, I'll put it that way. But in terms of a right back that we could sign, there's not been that much transfer news surrounding that position so far. However, there has been a little bit of news that has come out in the last week over Wesley, as Flamengo are reportedly awaiting a formal offer of between 40 to 45 million euros for fullback Wesley and are open to selling before June and the start of the FIFA Club World Cup. Clubs from England and Spain are in the running, but there has been no offer as of yet. And look, I can't even comment on this one. I have no idea how good he actually is. I've never watched him play in my life. I didn't even know who he was before we were targeting him. So I guess it's one to keep an eye out for in the summer. Obviously, we do need to sign a right back pretty desperately going into the new season. Whether we actually go forward and make the offer for Wesley for 40 to 45 million seems quite a lot of money. However, if he's good enough, I'm absolutely for it, but I've never watched him play, so I really can't make a comment. However, a player that I can make a comment on is one that Fabrizio Romano has given a little bit more of information on, and that is Tino Livermento, who we were linked to in the last video that I made on the Manchester City transfer news. And Fabrizio Romano has come out with a new statement saying that Pep confirms today that Kyle Walker won't be part of future plans. He will leave this summer, and Tino Livermento remains the #1 target at right back. Won't be easy deal with Newcastle. Look, I'll be honest, I can't see this one happening for Livermento. Livermento was signed for Newcastle as that kind of replacement to the Kieran Trippier role in the side. So I think that it would cost a lot of money to try and prize him out of Newcastle, especially with the club also looking like they're going to get Champions League football next season. I don't know. For me personally, I think it'll be really difficult to get a deal done for Livermento. I think he's a good player, young, got a lot of good attributes, could be a good player for us going forward in that role. But I think he's going to cost a lot of money to get out of Newcastle, if I'm honest. So yeah, Djani Rinders is absolutely one to keep your eyes on over the next couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to seeing that one progress. Hopefully, it does not progress similar to the Florian Verz situation. However, that is the end of all the transfer news for Manchester City for this week. Make sure you hit the like button if you do enjoy the video. If you want to see the content keep coming in terms of the transfer news, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you do want to see more of my videos, and leave a comment on what you guys think of all of the news that I've brought you in this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.